Hi, thanks for tuning in. This is the US Futures Weekly Chart Analysis for the week ending 28th of June 2024. First chart is the US Dollar Index Futures, which traded roughly sideways this week. I was anticipating a push higher in response to last week's test, and this week's pretty much produced a secondary test for supply. When the market does test a second time in this fashion, the expectation is for a reduced spread and reduced volume. And that's pretty much what we got this week. So the expectation, to a large extent, remains the same for a push higher in response. Now, that's not to say it's guaranteed to happen. That's the expectation. If, however, the market was to fail at this point, it would be quite a negative for the market and may see the market break down in response. So watch this carefully and just see what the response is. The expectation is for a push higher. E-mini S&P, this is S&P 500 index futures. The market's been continuing higher. This week saw spread narrow considerably, volume reduced to about the average, and there's a slight gap higher again. It does look like some supply has been drawn out this week. Spread narrowing so much. Poor close down near the lows of this week's traded range. It did close as an up bar, however, so it wasn't overwhelming supply, but some supply has been drawn out. I would expect the market to pull back slightly in response next week, perhaps close that gap and just see how much supply is in the market. So early next week, I would like to see that gap closed and a test for supply. US Treasury 10-year note futures, and they pulled back this week. The market came back on a slight increase in volume, still a little below average though. It did close a fraction off its low, so there is some support in the market. Spread increased. The previous week had quite low volume, so the last 2 weeks have seen volumes below average, and it would appear the market's just consolidating here around the 110, 111 mark. Copper price futures. Copper price futures were not able to hold on at this level here and broke below this week. Volume was reduced further and well below the average, so selling pressure certainly wasn't overwhelming, and the market did close off its lows for the week, so there was some buying support in the market. I expect, however, the market will probably continue sideways down at this level. Back here is where the previous highs were, back over here. So the market may come back to this level and test it for strength prior to any attempt to push higher. Gold price futures are doing a good job to hold on at this level. Selling pressure continues to be low. Down here, the volumes continue to be low. The market did dip lower during the week and recovered nicely, and price does look fairly comfortable at this 2300 level at the moment. It's certainly not under threat. Silver price futures are also holding on nicely at this level here. They also dipped lower this week and recovered. Volume's a little bit higher in this market, still below average, but this market's always a little more volatile than gold. So a good job to continue holding on and well placed to push higher when trading conditions become more favourable. Like crude price futures actually threatened the breakdown line here this week, moved above it slightly, but then came back to close right at it this week. Volume was reduced, as was spread. So the market's a little strong. You've got in the background this period of consolidation adjacent to this period of bullish absorption in the background. and the market did dip lower and saw buying support emerge, and price moved higher in response. And this week the market really has issued a minor challenge on lowish volume to this breakdown line, which suggests there is some strength in the market, and it may pay just to keep an eye on this because it may attempt to push higher in response. This is the Euro US dollar currency futures, and they continue to hold on at this level here at the moment. A little unconvincingly, but holding on all the same. The market's trading in this range at the moment, and I've been expecting the market to come back and test this level, but the market's been slightly too strong at the moment to do so, and it's just travelling sideways. I expect that this market is neutral in itself and is trading roughly the inverse of the US dollar more than anything else. British pound currency futures. The highs of the range come through here. I've got the lows marked there at the moment. This was where the market found support, price pushed up in response. This was the breakout line, only a minor breakout line, where price pushed above in response. And if you continue that line across, the market is sitting right on top of that at the moment. It's not a really strong level, but it's a level the market's respecting at the moment for whatever reason. And spread narrowed this week. Volume was once again below the average. This market is also trading the inverse of the US dollar to a large extent. Japanese yen currency futures really succumbed to the negative influence in this market. A negative influence is really difficult to overcome. And there's been an attempt made recently, particularly there, to support this market, but the negative influence, the selling pressure in the market, just becomes very difficult for the market to support, as any signs of support that are drawn out are sold into by other players in the market. You've got the last gasp lows here, and although it's not a clear breakdown below those levels, it's certainly threatening to do so. Aussie dollar currency futures. The Aussie dollar currency futures are trading in a fairly tight range at the moment. Through here, volume was increased this week and spread narrowed a little. So while price attempted to move higher, there was some selling pressure in the market by the looks. Overall, though, the market's just trading sideways. It has done for a couple of months now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks. It's traded roughly sideways from here. And there's no sign of it doing anything different at the moment. It looked like it might have pushed higher this week, but there appears to be selling pressure in the market at this 67 level. Bitcoin futures. Bitcoin futures did trade lower this week, as I suggested it might last week. Price did come down and test this 60,000 level for strength. So some supply has been drawn out, no doubt, but the close off the low suggests that some buying support did emerge at 60,000 or just below. Volume was quite high, which is probably a measure of the amount of supply initially drawn out as price moved lower, and also that there is some support at this 60,000 level. The level is being defended in some respects, and some buying support has emerged. Now, seeing supply was so high, the most likely outcome early next week is for a test for supply, just to see how much supply is in the market. It'll be a minor push lower to threaten any further sellers in the market to come out and do their thing. If selling pressure is found to be low, you may find the market attempt to move higher in response or just sideways. But because volume was so high last week, well above the average, I expect the highest probability is for the market to test for supply early and then respond depending on how much supply is drawn out. Back to the US dollar index futures just quickly. It's pretty clear to see a secondary test for supply this week. Here's the highs of the range, around 106. The lows of the range are currently around 104. The expectation for a secondary test for supply is a push higher in response, and generally a fairly vigorous one. If the market was to fail here, you would expect to push lower. Initially, it'll test to 104, and a break below that level would really be a negative influence over the market and would see price coming back to this kind of level here or down here. So we're at an interesting juncture here. The expectation is for a push higher. Any failure that emerges here would see price initially test 104 and perhaps even break below that if the weakness was to continue. Okay, thanks for your time. See you next week. See ya.